Alright, we're going to try this again. I went a little long-winded on the last part, so I abruptly got cut off on part 1 because my thing only goes 29 minutes, right? So this is part 2 of Wrestling Stories. So I left off, always powered by coffee by the way, I left off talking about Rikishi and the match that didn't exist out in the outside world. Rikishi, like I said, he was a nice guy. I got to also take my camera and I ran around the ring, and I think the people thought that I worked for the newspaper or the magazine or a magazine or something, and because nobody bothered me, I took a picture of Rikishi landing a stink face, if you know what I'm talking about, on another wrestler. It almost has human centipede-like proportions. Ugh. Anywho, also, like I said, at that match, and he ended up doing a match against Frank the Tank Nelson, was one of the Islanders who was related to Rikishi. And I think if I remember correctly, The Rock is related to Rikishi too, but Rikishi's gone too, if I remember correctly. He passed away. So then that was 2005, and then I showed you guys, or actually I take that back. 2009, I went to an event and got to see down here in Springdale. I got to see Val Venus and Chris Masters and Jazz, who was in WWF and ECW at the time. If you've got a couple minutes, go check out Val Venus's website. Hello, ladies, because it's quite interesting. And also, he, well, let's just say he got in a little bit of hot water a week ago. But it wasn't on him. It wasn't. He tried to show something, and it didn't go over very well. But you guys need to know about it. So go check out Val Venus's website. So 2010, I go back to Chicago for a visit, Chicagoland, and I got to go to Wizard World, which is a pop-con, a comic book sci-fi, lots of different celebrities, and they had a row of wrestlers there, okay? And one of the ones that was on my list was Mick Foley. That's right. I got to meet Mick Foley in 2010. A buddy of mine took this sideways picture because, I'm sorry guys, I know maybe this is wrong, but I can't always afford really good photos and autographs and merch and whatever the heck. It just all adds up. So we were all taking turns at taking side shots like this. But Mick Foley, really nice guy. I got to, because I was a little patient, I got to talk with him for about over 5 minutes. And he was at that time still in TNA, was the organization he was at, and he told me a little behind the scenes type stuff. After he saw me, he said, "Excuse me, but I'm going to go take a break." And he went to go take a break, and I'm not lying to you, he shuffled off like a grandpa, and I just kept looking like, my God, I really like him, but how he's managed to stay alive and active in the business up to that point amazed me, okay? It really did. But getting to meet Mick Foley, very cool highlight. Before the nonsense in the world started, I know he was doing stand-up comedy too, and was going to select big cities and some small towns. So also at that convention, I met Kevin Sullivan. He was an ass. He was probably the only one that was rude for all the wrestlers I met. But he was just angry at everybody that day. But I've heard that that's his demeanor most of the time. Not trying to slander him, this is just what I heard. So, but yeah, he was, oh boy. So Kevin Sullivan, I met Raven. Raven was cool. Kevin Nash was there. Oh my God, really tall, right? You know, I shook hands with him. It didn't cost anything to go say hi and shake hands. But I went off and I simply said, you know, nice to meet you. I always liked, you know, the WWF and Diesel and the NWO angle, and I'm like, I did ask him. I said, how's Scott Hall doing? You know, because he wasn't there. We're talking 2010 here, and he goes off and he says, in nice terms, he goes, you know, I don't get to talk to him as much as I used to. That was back then, okay? He goes, but let's just say he's seen better days. And I'll talk a little more about him again in a second, Scott Hall. So I met Kevin Nash, and then I met millionaire Ted DiBiase, okay? $1 Million Man, excuse me, I'm tired. And he was really nice. Who, of course, was right next to him was Virgil. Yeah, $1 Million Man and Virgil, both did the same thing. If you remember, Virgil was $1 Million Man's valet for in the 80s anyway, and dabbled in NWO too, in WCW. But $1 Million Man, I went off, and I didn't expect to actually meet him there. I didn't know he was going to be there. And he was selling his book, and I bought his book, and he signed the book, and there was nobody else around, and I talked with him for a couple minutes, because at that time frame, he... shortly before, he went on a Christian network. I just happened to be flipping through and saw that he was a born-again Christian at that time frame. And I'm a Christian too, and I'm a lousy Christian. What I mean by that is that, well, I think most of us Christians are lousy Christians. We foul up every day. But you know what? That's the thing. We just keep getting back on the bike and riding, okay? And do the best we can in the world. That's all there is to it. No judgment there. And so I was talking to him, and I just basically said, you know, it was very nice that that you came out with your faith like that, and the backstory and all of it. And me and him, that's what we were talking about for several minutes, and about God and a few other things. And I bought his book, and he signed it to me, and for the life of me, I did not know until I left and I was halfway back home that somehow the books got switched, and I didn't end up having a signed copy. And I'm like, man, so I don't have $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase's autograph. I probably should just try again, right? Maybe, I don't know. So I leave the last one at the convention for you for last. The wrestler is not the one that caused the ugly scene. It was the security that did. Now, I was taking pictures throughout, you know, the day of fans, you know, that were in cosplay. I was taking, you know, pictures like I did, you know, with me and Mick, and I took pictures of individual celebs. I was not in the pictures, okay? I took a picture of the legendary Iron Sheik. Yeah, that's right. Remember? Saw him wrestle back in the early 90s in a card. Maybe it was mid-90s, I don't know. But needless to say, I took a picture of Iron Sheik. He had that title belt there on the table. He was dressed up like typical Iron Sheik. But Iron Sheik didn't know I took the picture, but this big, bulky security guard did. And he comes up to me and says, that'll be $20. I said, $20 for what? And I got in a half argument with this guy, the security guard. And I'm like, look, I'm not in the picture. If I was in the picture, then gladly I'd give you $20. I have no problem with that. But I'm not giving you $20 to take a picture of Iron Sheik at his table. I said, that's a little ridiculous. So me and him hem-hawed around. And yeah, this guy could have beat me up, I guess. I wasn't being loud and obnoxious. I was being matter of fact. And I went off and I had enough of this guy. And I said, look, if I don't want a beef anymore, if you want me to delete this picture, I will delete it. I said, but I ain't talking about this anymore. That's when, believe it or not, the security guard backed off. I mean, I would have deleted it. No problem. I have the picture somewhere in one of my memory cards. I'm sorry, or I would show you. So I went. So I'm like, I wasn't going to. I guess this is the next dick move I did. But it was a dick move to the security guard, not Iron Sheik. Because I respect Iron Sheik, I do. So I went up to Iron Sheik's table, and that security guard was looking me over. And I went off and I said, Iron Sheik, I said, and I turned to my friends, I go, one of the best wrestlers and a legend eternal And he turns to the security guard and says, "This guy knows what he's talking about." I can't do an Iranian accent. And he goes, "I like this guy." I shook his hand and I said, "Thank you, sir. Just thank you for everything." And I walked away, and that security guard was fuming. Sorry, But by the way, about the Iron Sheik, on YouTube, go watch that documentary. It's free on YouTube with ads. There's like about 5 or 6 ads, I think, during the whole 96 minutes. It's a really good documentary. Go see it. I think you will not be disappointed in regards to that. So that was my Iron Sheik bit. So then, like I said, the last match that I got to meet with name wrestlers was the one in Springdale. I have friends of mine that, obviously I couldn't get back up to Illinois, or I showed an episode of Psycho's Platters that my son met Sergeant Slaughter from the old school 80s. And he got me a signed photo to me. I would have showed it, but I still have boxes. I still have boxes around here. But I did show it in a past episode. And Sergeant Slaughter, I guess, to my son, he was very, very nice. He had an interesting, my son took pictures of the merch table, and of course he had copies of the belt. He had a special belt that had the G.I. Joe logo on it, because of course he was an action figure for G.I. Joe in that animated show. And then my buddy Scott, remember I told you previously that it would be about a good 4 or 5 years before wrestling came back to Harvard, Illinois? DDP, that's right. It's me, it's DDP. I always liked Diamond Dallas Page's work. Okay, I did with the Diamond Cutter and all the other stuff. I'm glad he was able to briefly come back in TNA. I thought that was kind of neat. The DDP yoga program, I'm not a big yoga fan, okay? I have my reasons for that, but it was him and the program and God, essentially, pretty much, that has helped turn around wrestlers like Nikita Koloff, Scott Hall, Jake the Snake Roberts, and others. Him and his program. I guess, look it up, ddpyoga.com. Maybe it'll be for you, I don't know. But I was glad that my buddy Scott got this. And of course it says, to Paul, do your YRG workout or else bang. Diamond Dallas Page. So I got one last story for you. Donna Joe Cat Lady will be excited because this is her prop that I have used. And it's about this lovely lady who's no longer with us. Yeah, I'm talking about China, okay? I have a China story for everybody here. This, of course, January 2002 issue of Playboy. This was the second issue of Playboy she was in. She was in November 2000. I remember having this issue and the November 2000. So China, okay, so here's my China story. So back in the late 90s, early O's, I'm sorry, my memory isn't so good. We used to have, up in northern Illinois, we'd have town expos where all the businesses of the town would come out. It'd be a weekend thing. You'd get a lot of free shit. They'd give you bags, and you'd get calendars and pens and business cards, and you could enter for giveaways and stuff like that. Well, most of the ones up there would have former sports people. There'd be former and current players of the Chicago Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, Cubs, Sox, okay? I got to meet a lot of different sports people because of these expos and had fascinating conversations with some of them. Well, one year in Crystal Lake, Illinois, they held this at the South High School in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Big, big school. And they decided to have Triple H show up. And I'm like, the hell is Triple H doing here? It was a little different. And I loved it. I'm like, I took the kids. I'm like, let's go. I was a dad, took him in the van. Dad, yeah. So we went, and I was expecting a really huge line. I'm not kidding you. I don't think that line got any bigger than 20 people. I'm going, what the hell here? This is Triple H. If it was like Keith Magnuson from the Blackhawks or Gale Sayers from the Chicago Bears, you'd have at least 100 people in line waiting. So for Triple H, it was about 20. I mean, there was maybe more than that, but the line never got that big. So that was the first time that I got to meet a wrestler that was currently on television, okay? And Triple H was nice to me and the kids, no problem, you know. He was being very respectful, and I said, awesome. But about 2 tables away sat China. And I'm the only one noticing this. Now, China, I say it was within 7 to 10 days before this appearance. She was on the Slammy Awards, which was her first appearance as Triple H's bodyguard, all right? Everyone was paying attention to Triple H, but nobody went up to China, except me. I did. Now, somewhere around here, I've got a signed card, because the local newspaper cranked out these cards. They were one-sided, and it showed Triple H. But I've got Triple H sign on the front, China on the back. Okay, so I went up to her, and I mean, I'm just being matter-of-factly. I said, hi. I said, how come you're not over next to him? And she tells me, well, this is his show. Now, I didn't know that. I think they were boyfriend-girlfriend at the time, or they were going to be, okay? But she said quietly, goes, well, this is his show. I don't want to detract from it. So in other words, she was just there to come along. And I'm like, and I said to her, I said, I saw that Slammy Awards, and I am very impressed. And I was. She had the physique. And you know, some people get scared by that. I remember talking to my friends back then. They're like, oh, no. I was fascinated. I was intrigued. And I said to her, and I told her that. And I said, this is incredible. When did you start? And she told me 10 years before that, East Texas, which in her book, that's what she brought up, from East Texas. And me and her are having this conversation for about a couple of minutes. Nobody else came up to us. I mean, my kids were probably waiting for me to get done yapping. And this is what I told her. I said, you're beautiful, you're talented. I said, and if you don't make it here, I will be amazed. I will be totally amazed. She had a smile on her face after I told her that. And she said, thank you. That was the only time I got to talk to her. And look, she became the 9th wonder of the world, as WWEF would say, and part of TX and all the other stuff. So I kind of miss her. She, you know, unfortunately, she took some bad turns before she died at 45. The Playboy stuff is tasteful. And, you know, yeah, I've seen the movies, the adult movies. Kind of felt bad, actually, when she got to that point. But, you know, that's the thing, though, I wanted to kind of get to here at the end of this. And I know I've gone a very long time, so forgive me. You know, all of these decades, you know, the wrestling evolved. One of the people I forgot to tell you in the other video that I met was Dirty Dick Murdoch. He came to one of those Windy City wrestling shows. He was if I remember correctly, at least a 70s, early 80s wrestler. So he was a little more old school. Boy, oh boy, he did not disappoint. He was just, and I'm like, but, you know, I'm like, I liked his style even then too, you know. But to go from that to 2020s, and I'm not going to lie to you on this, I kind of stopped watching by about 2005, 2006. I felt that wrestling changed a lot since I watched it in the 80s and the 90s and the early O's, okay? there was some parts that I would not watch. I tried to be the parental control, because my kids would watch with me, and when some of the stuff in the WWF was going on, like the whole Undertaker with the sacrifices thing, and when they were tarting up the women more, I would not let my kids watch that. We went to WCW. I'm like if I saw what I think, the first time, like, I tried to be a responsible parent. Ha ha ha. I did not like the whole entire suck it angle. I'm like going, oh boy, I know you're trying to get your ratings, Vince, but that maybe wasn't the way to go. And for some people, they think that's cool. And I guess looking back on it, it's minorly humored, but I still think it was kind of bad taste. And, I'm not saying that as a prude, mind you. It's just wasn't really necessary in the sport. But, wrestling, I know that it's just not like it used to be. I've gone off and seen clips from AEW. I think they're trying. I think that's okay. But I've tried to support. Ever since like 2018, there's been a local one here called WCWA Wrestling. Go check them out on YouTube. I went to, and I've said this before, so I'll try to shorten the story if I can. I went to my first show there, and the card was really, really good. And at the end of the night, I got a piece of the table. Yeah, they busted a table, and I got all the wrestlers I could find to sign this damn thing. And yeah, I even dated it. It says WCWA Purge, January 19th, 2020. Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was one more event, and then the nonsense started happening in the world. And the good news is that actually next Sunday they're going to come back again and do an event. It'll be the first one in close to a year. And I may go, I don't know. But I just think it's still cool. And I really appreciate you guys, whoever's come to watch this, taking the time out to watch and hear these stories. Would you do me a favor in the comments? Would you go off and just leave me, if you're into wrestling, tell me a story, okay? Was it a wrestler you met? Was it a particular event on TV that you just went, wow? Was it something you liked, something you hated? I don't know, just leave me something. I saw in part 1, Matthew Street went off and gave me some nice storied comments about some old school wrestlers like Bob Backlund and Pedro Morales and a bunch of other ones. And I thought that was pretty cool. So if you've got a story or two, just leave it there, or else bang. All right, guys. I love you guys. You take care. God bless. Rock on. And do your YRG. Bye.